What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining in the We'll Fix It team. All right, so now we're going to be replacing the alternator on this '03 Ford, and it's a 4.6 liter motor. The 5.4 is real similar. There are a lot of similarities that go on here. Thank goodness this is the one thing I do like. They did this. It's not a super hard alternator to change. So let's flip the camera around and just get a quick look over. I'm taking a few things off, not much. Here we go. So what we've got here is the alternator's down here in the center, of course. You see that. There's a belt tensioner down here. I'll move my big hand out the way. You can see it right over here. There's the belt tensioner right here. Let's see here. And we'll just pull it back. I'm not going to take the belt completely off. I'm just going to let it loose off of this here. And then I'll hook something to the belt to kind of tie it over here so it stays on all my pulleys. The alternator will just come straight up out of here. The two bolts that hold it in the front do not have to be completely removed. You just got to loosen them a little bit. And just remove the supporting bracket bolts at the back, the main wire. Of course, always disconnect your battery before servicing any of the electrical system on your vehicle. And here we go. Let's get into it, guys. So, guys, this is where I was talking about. I got my light now. You can see a little bit better. You can see the tensioner arm down here. I just used you can use a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. I've got this little handy dandy tool, which is it can do a lot of serpentine belts, but you don't have to have that. You can use a big 1/2-inch drive ratchet, stick it in the there's a hole right here at the very end that the 1/2-inch drive ratchet will fit in. Now what I've done is, because this belt, I want it to stay on all the rest of the pulleys, so it makes my life a little easier. I took me a little bungee cord while I released the tension to get it off that alternator pulley. It took me a bungee cord and hooked to it and just looped it right up here. Now I'm gonna go back with it. I don't have to go fumbling around and trying to get it all back on every single pulley. It'll stay like that. And then there's two bolts. There's a one here, and then there's one over here. And like I say, there's a stabilizer bracket at the very back right here. I'll get this harness loose once I get the alternator up and tipped out of there, because then I can get my little thingy thing on there. Okay. Holding my camera with one hand and working with the other, guys. Now, I told you at the beginning that you wouldn't have to take the bolts completely out. Most models you don't. There's slots in the bottom of the alternator, but this one didn't have it, so I had to take the bolts all the way out. But I guess that's something different in your model, but nevertheless, now I got that out. I can pick this. I'm gonna have to use both hands to pick this alternator up out of here. But basically, before I do, I want to kind of get this thing where I can get to these plug-ins a little bit better right here. And I'll use a handy-dandy little pick right here. And I'm gonna get behind that really carefully and lift that so that it can come off of there without breaking that off. And the same thing will go for this tab here. I want to be really gentle with these, and if you use this tool properly, I also have something else that I use. Let's run through the shop here. Volkswagen Rutan. Okay. Pretty much a Chrysler van. This is what they use for removing radiator hoses or getting a hose broke loose around a clamp area. Like the hose has been clamped on for a long time, you want to break it loose, you would take this tool and go around it and kind of get that rubber to let go of the area that it's on. Well, it's also really handy for the same thing. That little pick doesn't do the job. This little thing here will. Really gets in there and does it. And that way I can lift those plug-ins off without breaking them. All right, guys. There it is. One electric pump. Pumps the electricity. Yeah, it could very well be the original alternator with vehicle with quite a few miles on it too, so yay, I hear you, Mr. Alternator. All right, well, pretty much what we're going to do now is just reverse procedure. I'll drop the new alternator in carefully. I'll put the stabilizer bracket on first to kind of keep it centered, then I'll get the two bolts in at the bottom, loop my belt back over, release the tensioner, which is already released, but let it go, let the belt go back to it. Now, What you would want to do in this sense is you want to ensure this battery's pretty up to capacity. With new alternators that have new brushes and a resurfaced or machined armature to match the new brushes, they haven't broke in yet. So the contact point can be kind of hit and miss, even though they're new brushes. They haven't developed their complete convexness, concaveness to it. I'm sorry, to where it actually forms to the armature. Let me flip the cake and talk here. So what I do for a good measure on a new alternator job is to ensure that this alternator will last a long time, it won't come back a year later. I'll put my battery charger on it, and I'll do that after I get done working on it. And the reason being is because I have a pretty heavy duty battery charger that can charge, 40 or 50 amps on a continuous duty cycle. So a battery tends to, and that's a pretty fast charge. And for my own safety, and also to keep from breathing in the boiling gas from the sulfur that comes off of that. So when you charge a battery, you get a certain amount of there's a gas that comes off of it. And if you're around one that's kind of old, you can actually taste the acid taste. And that's not good for your teeth, or it's good for your sinuses and all that. So charging a battery it's always a good idea to be in a well ventilated area. And I don't like to work on a vehicle while the battery's charging, just in case something happens, because charging a battery fast is, slow is not such a big deal. A slow charge is always optimal. But I want to make sure the battery's charged up all the way. I don't have time to let it sit overnight. So we're going to put the big charger on it. We'll walk away for a little bit, and an hour on that or half an hour on that. That battery will be fully charged. So when I fire it up, the alternator won't have to work so hard. It can just kind of pick up and do its thing while having to charge the battery, with the brushes not making very good contact on the armature, causing them to prematurely wear out. Crystallizes the surface, kind of heats the springs up that pushed out on them so that it makes contact. That's a detail that I'm always real adamant about. Charge that battery really, really good before you start it up on your new alternator, and your new alternator will last twice as long. That's a very big factor. All right, so thank you guys for watching this whole video. You're wonderful. You guys are awesome. Thank you again. The We'll Fix It team, we can fix America.